Before he was the Big O, before he changed the way basketball would forever be played, Oscar Palmer Robertson was just a kid growing up in the segregated South where the hoops were bent, the nets were frayed, and the game was everything. Born in 1938 in Charlotte, Tennessee, Oscar didn't grow up with shiny sneakers or air-conditioned gyms. His first court was made of dirt, with a basketball hoop nailed to a makeshift backboard, often pieced together with old scraps. It wasn't pretty, but for a kid with big hands, big dreams, and even bigger talent, it was perfect. His family later moved to Indianapolis, Indiana, hoping for better opportunities. And while the racial barriers didn't exactly vanish, Oscar found one place where he felt fully himself: the basketball court. He enrolled at Crispus Attucks High School, an all-black school, during a time when integration was still more idea than reality. But what Oscar and his team did there? It wasn't just history, it was thunderclap-level iconic. In 1955, he led Crispus Attucks to the Indiana State title, the first all-black school in America to win a state basketball championship. Think about that. Segregated school, playing in front of hostile crowds, winning it all in a state where basketball is practically a religion. Oscar didn't just win games. He rewrote the story of who got to be great in America. He wasn't even done. The next year, Crispus Attucks repeated as champions. They didn't just win, they dominated. And Oscar, he was averaging 24 points per game in an era where that was unheard of. He became a local hero, a quiet legend before most kids his age even learned to drive. But fame didn't make him arrogant. If anything, it made him sharper, focused, hungry. And so, with dozens of colleges watching, Oscar chose to stay in state and attend the University of Cincinnati. Now, this wasn't exactly a warm welcome. He was the first black basketball star the school ever had, and the campus wasn't always kind. Hotels refused to let him stay. Restaurants turned him away. But on the court, nobody could ignore him. From 1957 to 1960, Oscar absolutely lit the NCAA on fire. He averaged over 33 points per game for his college career. That's not a typo. That's real life. The man was a walking triple-double before anyone had a name for it. And mind you, this was before the shot clock, before three-point lines, before highlight reels on Instagram. It was just Oscar, just doing everything. Scoring, passing, rebounding, leading, the game bent to his will. He won the Player of the Year award twice, led Cincinnati to 2 Final Four appearances, and left college as its all-time leading scorer. But even then, people weren't quite sure what to make of him. Some thought he was too methodical, too controlled. Not flashy enough. But anyone paying attention knew Oscar Robertson didn't play to entertain. He played to win. And he played with a chip on his shoulder that came from being told no one too many times. In 1960, he was drafted by the Cincinnati Royals. And almost immediately, the league had a problem. Good one. Because Oscar wasn't just a guard. He was a 6'5" freight train with court vision like a psychic and a jumper smoother than jazz. In his rookie season, he averaged 30.5 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 9.7 assists. Let that sink in. This was the 1960s. Guards weren't supposed to rebound like centers. Centers weren't supposed to pass like this. And nobody was supposed to do everything. But Oscar did, effortlessly. And that was just the beginning. By the time Oscar Robertson entered the NBA in 1960, he wasn't just ready, he was overdue. The league had never seen a player like him. A 6'5" point guard with the strength of a forward, the vision of a quarterback, and the poise of a seasoned general. Most rookies show up hoping to fit in. Oscar walked in like he already had a corner office. In his first season with the Cincinnati Royals, he didn't just turn heads, he practically broke necks. 30.5 points, 10.1 rebounds, 9.7 assists per game. As a rookie, in black and white TV days, when stats weren't hyped and sneakers squeaked louder than crowds, Oscar was quietly and ruthlessly dismantling expectations, and then came 1,961-62, the season. 31.1 points, 11.4 assists, 12.5 rebounds per game. He averaged a triple-double. For the entire season? Let's pause here. Imagine doing that in an era with no load management, no advanced nutrition, and definitely no tracking cameras. It's just hardwood floors, elbowy defenders, and Oscar doing Oscar things night after night after night. And you know what the wildest part is? He finished third in MVP voting. Yeah, third, behind Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain. To be fair, we're also doing alien-level things. Wilt averaged 50 points that season. Bill's Celtics won 60 games. It was like the NBA gods decided to let the cheat codes run wild that year. But Oscar, he was the most well-rounded, the most complete. A basketball metronome. He went on to average a triple-double over his first 5 seasons combined. Read that again. Over 5 years, for all the numbers, there was frustration. Because Oscar's Royals, they weren't winning titles. He was putting up legendary stats, but the team struggled in the playoffs. The Celtics dynasty loomed large, and later the Sixers. Oscar could do everything, but he couldn't do everything, you know? Off the court, he was facing battles that no stat line could capture. Oscar was one of the first athletes to speak out against the NBA's restrictive contract system. Players back then were basically tied to teams for life. Free agency didn't exist. If a team drafted you, they owned you, period. So Oscar, who'd always believed in justice and fairness, didn't just dribble, he fought. He became president of the NBA Players Association, and in 1970 led an antitrust lawsuit against the league, Robertson v. National Basketball Association. It challenged the NBA's monopolistic control and blocked a proposed merger with the ABA. This wasn't some showy move. It was risky. Put him on the league's blacklist. Owners weren't thrilled, but Oscar didn't care. Because he wasn't just playing for himself, he was playing for everyone who came after. That lawsuit, it eventually helped usher in free agency, giving players real bargaining power. So every time today's stars sign a $200 million contract or choose their next destination, like they reordering coffee, they owe a nod to the Big O, but back to the court. In 1970, Oscar's time in Cincinnati came to an end. The team, shockingly, traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks, and there, finally, the pieces fell into place. He joined a young, skywalking center named Lou Alcindor soon to be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Together, they formed a perfect storm of calm leadership and raw talent. In 1971, they stormed the league. The Bucks won 66 games. Oscar was no longer carrying everything he was orchestrating, smoothing out the offense, hitting clutch shots, leading by example. And finally, Oscar Robertson got his ring. The Bucks swept the finals, Oscar cried. Quietly, of course. That was his way. But you knew it meant the world. After over a decade of hard-earned stats, battles with the league, and carrying teams on his back, he was finally a champion. By the time Oscar Robertson raised the NBA championship trophy with the Milwaukee Bucks in 1971, the world finally saw what he'd known all along. Greatness isn't always loud, flashy, or dressed in commercials. Sometimes, greatness wears a calm stare, a sharp suit, and drops 25 and 10 like it's just another Tuesday. Oscar played a few more seasons with Milwaukee, gracefully transitioning from superstar to veteran leader. His stats dipped because age catches up to even the best, but the respect that only grew. When he retired in 1974, his career numbers read like someone accidentally left the sliders on in a video game. 25.7 points per game, 9.5 assists, 7.5 rebounds, 12-time All-Star MVP in 1964, and, of course, the man who averaged a triple-double for an entire season. But the story didn't stop at retirement. If anything, Oscar's legacy was just getting warmed up. Off the court, he continued the work that mattered just as much, maybe even more. He advocated for player rights, racial equality, education, and dignity in the workplace. The lawsuit he filed back in 1970. It finally reached a settlement in 1976, and that decision cracked open the door to modern free agency. So when today's NBA stars switch teams, stack rings, or sign deals that could buy a small island, it's not just because they're talented. It's because Oscar Robertson stood tall when it wasn't easy. He wasn't flashy, but he was fearless, and he kept giving back. Oscar became a businessman, public speaker, and philanthropist. He supported health initiatives, helped fund kidney research, and always found time to mentor the next generation. He didn't crave the spotlight, but if it came, he made sure it shined in the right direction. For years, his triple-double season felt like folklore, unreal. Too clean to be true. But then, along came Russell Westbrook. In 2017, Russ broke Oscar's record for most triple-doubles in a season and averaged a triple-double himself. Some legends might have felt overshadowed. Not Oscar. He showed up to congratulate Russ, smiled that wise Oscar smile, and said, "Records are made to be broken. Classy. Always." But even with modern players chasing his numbers, Oscar's impact still stood alone. Because while everyone remembers his stats, what really defined Oscar Robertson was how he stood up, not just for himself, but for generations of players he'd never even meet. He was the voice before the microphone, fight before the fans noticed. In 1980, he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. No long speeches, no dramatic pauses, just quiet pride. That was Oscar's style. And in 2018, the NBA finally made it official. He was honored with the NBA Lifetime Achievement Award, standing beside the likes of Bill Russell, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Larry Bird. Deserved? Absolutely. Overdue? Definitely. Oscar Robertson never needed loud praise or viral clips. He didn't need a shoe deal or a catchphrase. He had substance. He had conviction. And he had more game than most of us will ever fully appreciate. Thanks for watching the full story of Oscar Robertson, the Big O. If this story moved you, it's inspired you, or even just made you shake your head in disbelief at those stats, go ahead and like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next basketball legend. Because Oscar's story isn't just a basketball tale. It's a reminder that real greatness is steady, it's selfless, and sometimes it wears a number 14 jersey and quietly changes history.